This morning, we're continuing our series called Wired, and I invite you to take out your handout that you have at your seat because I guarantee you there's going to be at least a couple of items that you're going to want to write down because this morning we're getting very practical about what we're sharing today. This is incredibly practical stuff, so I'm just going to encourage you to get out a pen and write some things, some of the verses you're going to see, some of the concepts that I'm going to share, because I really want to share some of the key things that I have learned and that the Bible has to say about managing anger in a very biblical way. So this morning we're continuing the series Wired, and what we've been looking at in this series is we have said that God has wired each one of us for relationships. And we said that dates all the way back to Genesis chapter 1 when God created the first human beings. Because God exists, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit in community. And so because God is relational, because He wants relationships with us and has community in the Godhead, in the Trinity, then He has created us to be the same way and to be very relational. And so last week, if you were here with us, we looked at the destructive force of anger, and we looked at what Jesus had to say, and we talked about some anger myths that each one of us tend to believe about the way anger works inside of us and our control of anger. And so this morning I want to continue kind of in a part 2 of that, and I really want to talk about this idea of practical anger management. I mean, all of us have kind of seen the movie with Jim Carrey, anger management, and he goes crazy in the groups, and everybody's sitting around, and they try all these different kinds of anger management skills, and it's hilarious, okay? But there are real practical things that the Bible has to say about managing anger, and these are things that I want to share with you because if we will take these key concepts and begin to implement them, we will see some huge differences in the relationships around us, okay? And so last week, if you remember, we said that anger is really physical arousal. That when you get angry, your pupils dilate, your blood pressure goes up, your pulse is just racing, and there's all kinds of arousal things physically that happens when anger hits. And so this morning, what I want you to understand is these 5 things that we're going to talk about are to help us to manage anger. In other words, it's okay if we feel anger. Now, some of you grew up in a home that anger was seen as always bad. It's bad to get angry. Oh my goodness, his temper, her temper is going to just blow. And so that's a bad thing to ever express anger in relationships because for you, it was always stuff the anger. Some of us grew up in very explosive homes where because somebody's top was going to blow, somebody's temper was just going to just get all over you, you tried to avoid anger at all possible times, but the reality is it was unavoidable. And you experienced some very difficult, abusive situations verbally, maybe physically, because anger was out of control in your family.